Hey friends, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey Hearties, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host Nicole, joined once again by my wonderful co-host Theresa to chat about When Calls the Heart, season 11, episode 12, Anything for Love. It was written by Elizabeth Stewart and directed by Peter DeLuise. A wedding celebration brings heightened emotions and surprises. Nathan and Elizabeth exchange secrets. Rosemary and Lee pitch Lucas an idea for the future of Hope Valley. What were your thoughts on this season finale?
So I think a lot like last year, this finale, it didn't actually feel like a finale hearsay. It almost feels like episode 11 in both season 10 and season 11 felt more like the finale. And it felt like this finale and the finale in season 10 felt more just like an extra episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought there were a lot of really great moments, really sweet moments between Nathan, Elizabeth, and Hickam and May, and lots to love about this episode.
Yes. And one thing I loved was going into our first segment, which is about Lucas and the investigation and the national park. I loved the first scene with the Coulters when they're walking down the street and they're talking about the land that they sold Lucas, and with the resort there was supposed to be a legacy project, something for Goldie's generation to enjoy and Goldie's children one day. And I kind of chuckled when Lee says, I can't imagine you having kids. And Rosemary says, imagine us as grandparents. And Lee's like, ah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's how everyone feels when they think about it. But in reality, you're not going to be like, old and in like a nursing home or whatever in every instance when you're going to be a grandparent. So I think they're a little freaked out by that now, but I don't think they're actually going to be as old as they think they're going to be when they're grandparents. Yeah.
And Rosemary says that they shouldn't rush things. She's like, let's not rush things.
Yes.
And Lee has a grand vision of his own. And, Rosemary is prodding him. And he says, you're going to get it out of me anyway. And she says, I will. It's a gift.
Yes. She certainly has that gift for sure. Yes. Especially when it comes to Lee.
Lucas, Henry, and Bill at the Queen of Hearts. And Lucas is reading the newspaper with the front page headline, Governor's Sordid Past with Notorious Femme Fatale Exposed. What a headline that is.
Yes. I mean, you had to know that was gonna happen. That's a very interesting story that people are gonna want to read. And I think calling Jeanette a femme fatale is pretty on the nose.
I was about to say that. That's pretty accurate.
So I wasn't surprised when I saw that.
I do feel bad for Lucas. They walk in and Henry says you're a glutton for punishment, and Bill is trying to assure Lucas that it's going to blow over and that he can count on the Valley Voice to support him. And I loved that. I thought that was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked seeing Bill and Henry support Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this for a while, but I really wish that we had seen more of Lucas and Henry this season.
Yeah, I do too.
I feel like their scenes are so brief and there's so few of them, but I really wish we had gotten more one-on-one time with Lucas and Henry. And this was a nice moment because, the bad publicity, Henry's dealt with that. Even if he was, deserving of the bad publicity, he knows how that feels. So I think that, it would have been nice to see that bond a little bit more between the two of them. And this scene was a good example of that, I think.
And Lucas says, "How did I get this all so wrong? How can I be an effective governor when I'm not sure I even trust my own judgment anymore?" This is what
Yeah.
really made me feel bad for him.
Yeah. And to be fair, Lucas is the one who did not want to go with Jeanette originally.
Yeah.
Everybody else was questioning, like, why are you not going with Jeanette and you're going with Montague? And
Yeah.
obviously, it was a decision between the lesser of two
Yeah.
evils, but Lucas was right on this call. He was right. So I don't think he should blame himself because
No.
in reality, everyone else was telling him to do the other thing. And he was following his gut, which told him that Jeanette was not the person to get in business with. And sure enough, turned out he was right, even if he didn't know he was right completely.
Yes. Bill and Rosemary, the Queen of Hearts. I loved that Bill apologized to Rosemary
Yeah.
for keeping her out of the loop.
I liked that Bill apologized, but I also appreciated that it wasn't like kind of a dramatic, sappy moment. It was like, okay, Rosemary, I will apologize, even though I did do the right thing, technically.
Yes.
So I appreciate that Bill didn't, cave. It still, Bill knew what he had to do, but at the same time, he was able to apologize to Rosemary because they were making a good team, this season. So
They were.
yeah, I think he does owe her a bit of an apology, but at the same time, I appreciated that it didn't become a super dramatic.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
What did you think about the idea that Lee and Rosemary came to Lucas about with the national park?
I think a national park is more meaningful and more Hope Valley, if that makes any sense. I'm glad they're leaning in that direction because it emphasizes more the frontier aspect of Hope Valley versus the commercialism, tourists coming in type thing. And I appreciate that. I kind of wish they had gone that direction originally. And I'm going to be honest, the whole resort thing, it felt like a detour that probably didn't need to be made, but I think the national park is a good idea. I think it makes more sense to be passionate about something like that than it does for just a money-making machine. I think it just makes more sense, I think. So I appreciated that as the idea.
I did too. It was definitely different, and I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping for a theater. But
yeah. See, I don't think Lucas would have gone for a theater.
no.
I don't think he would have gone with that. But
No.
I see where you're coming from for sure.
Maybe one day Hope Valley and Rosemary will get her theater.
Could be. It definitely could be.
Have you ever been to a national park?
I believe so. There's one very close to where I live. I believe I've driven through, but there's one I believe by the college that I went to. And couples would go up there and there was a beautiful overlook over everything. Wow. And me and my friends used to go watch the sunset. We would get a Dunkin' coffee, go sit there. And I remember one memory in particular at this national park is that me and my friends, it was our senior year, and we had this big senior dinner coming up. And it was like a etiquette dinner where it was like everyone had to dress up and it was a whole big shebang. And I said to my friends, I was like, let's go to the national park instead and let's just watch the sunset and get McDonald's and literally just sit there. And we had way more fun than anybody who went to the etiquette dinner. So
that sounds fun.
Yeah, fun times.
Yes. I don't think I've ever been to a national park per se. I would love to go to one. I'm not a huge hiker. Like, if I were to go to a national park, I would probably be one of those people that did an easy hike and not a strenuous one.
Yes. I'm
yeah.
not for the 10-mile, 20-mile hikes
No,
in any
yeah.
way, shape, or form.
Me
5
either.
miles, 8 miles, maybe,
Yes.
but 10 miles, that's pushing it.
Yeah.
That's too much.
But in 5th grade, I took a class trip to Green River Preserve in North Carolina, and I think we
Oh,
stayed a couple days. I can't remember how many, but it was a fun trip. Although the downside to that was when we got back home, I got scarlet fever.
oh no. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, but still a fun trip. But yeah, scarlet
Yeah,
fever kind of put a damper on it a little bit.
uh, just a little bit, yeah.
Anyway, fun fact before we move on, the first national park was established in 1872, and that was Yellowstone.
Ah. Which, speaking of Yellowstone, sorry, this is completely down a rabbit hole. Speaking of Yellowstone, there's a show called Yellowstone, and
Yes.
it's a Western, and there
Yep.
was a spinoff that Kayla
Landman.
Wallace is gonna be starring in, and they
Yep.
wrapped a couple days ago.
Yes,
So
they did. Yeah.
fun facts, everybody.
Yes. Go support Kayla when it comes out.
Yes. Is it a family-friendly show? No,
No.
but it's okay.
Yes. I've
It's
actually
okay.
not seen Yellowstone all the way through, but I
Yeah, I
have
know.
seen bits and pieces, and it's completely different than Hallmark.
Yes, yes. I know that Hallmark show Ride kind of tried
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be like the family-friendly version
Mhm.
of Yellowstone, but either you're all in or you're not. So, I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, before we move on, I gotta mention the part when May comes in and she's looking for Mike and then finds out he is in Benson Hills with his mom. And then she starts worrying about him having cold feet for the wedding. And Rosemary says, if there's anyone you can rely on, it is Hickam. His feet are always warm. And Lee's like, huh?
I loved Rosemary's face in that moment. She says it and then she's like, "What did I just say?" Even she knew it was a pretty dumb thing to say. She knew it.
May brings up that marriage is based on trust. And I love how Lee and Rosemary nod in agreement. They're like, yep. And then when May walks out the door, they have the funniest look on their face.
Yes, I didn't notice that until the second time around. I was like, "Okay, I see you guys."
Yes. What did you think of the scene with Lucas and Henry when Henry gives Lucas the editorial from the Capital City Chronicle, basically calling for Lucas's resignation? And Lucas says, it isn't until someone tries to take something away from you that you realize how much you still want it.
I have a theory about this scene. I think a lot of the conversation got cut because
That's possible. Yeah.
it to me it felt like Henry comes in, shows the newspaper, says they're calling for your resignation. Lucas is like, when something's taken away,
Mhm.
you want it more, and then the scene ends. I
Yeah.
thought there was more to it,
Mhm.
and I was kind of surprised that it ended that abruptly. I said before, I think Henry and Lucas's scenes have been way too short and
Mhm.
way too
They
few
have.
this season, and I really, really want more
Yeah.
because if you remember season 7, their scenes
Mhm.
together were great, even if they
Yes, they
weren't
were.
getting along. They were great. They were
Mhm.
always great, and they were always intriguing.
Yeah.
And I really want more of the two of them
Yeah.
because they have
Me too.
this like there's this thing that kind of connects them. They're both
Mhm.
businessmen. They both have a little bit of a sketchy past,
Mhm.
and they understand each other. Except Lucas is kind of the younger,
Mhm.
more gung ho version of Henry, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's a great opportunity for this mentor mentee relationship.
Mhm.
and we're just not seeing it. I would love
No.
to see more of that.
Yeah, me
so that scene, it had the potential to be good, but it was a little too short for me.
Yes,
I would have
it
liked a little
was.
bit more.
The Lucas and Elizabeth talk. What were your thoughts on this?
I thought it was unnecessary.
Yes, I did too.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan either.
I feel like she and he had a friendship going in the beginning of this season, and then nothing for a long time. And then for her to suddenly go back, it just feels a little bit jarring and a little bit like, oh, we got to check this box, got to check it. I was like, I don't need this right now. You know, Lucas has his circle, she has hers. We don't need to force them to be in the same circle.
I agree.
So I didn't need it. And I really don't know of anybody really who needed it. So yeah, that's what I would say. Unnecessary is the word that comes to mind.
I mean, we know that Elizabeth is completely over Lucas, like no feelings at all whatsoever. But it just wasn't needed. Because they already had that talk earlier in the season.
Like, I can understand the thought behind it, obviously. Like, you know, it feels like the right thing to not, you don't want to ambush somebody at the party with your new date or whatever, and there's nothing more painful than seeing your ex with somebody else, like, living it up. But to be honest, and this might be a hot take, I think that scene would have been better if it was Nathan and Lucas versus Elizabeth and Lucas. I almost feel like it would have been more meaningful if it was the two of them versus Elizabeth and Lucas. And the conversation would have been a little bit different, I think, because they're just they have this very weird, like, connected dynamic that would have really kind of put you on edge a little bit, kind of, oh, what's Lucas going to say? What's Nathan going to say? And their scenes are always good in that way. And so I feel like it would have been a better scene if it was Lucas and Nathan versus Lucas and Elizabeth. Because with Lucas and Elizabeth, I'm not going to lie, it felt a little bit like on the nose, if that makes any sense. Like, it's like, oh, we got to check off this box and got to have her say these things to make it right. It's like, you don't need that. You don't need that. You know? Yeah.
Hopefully in season 12, we won't have any scenes like this. I mean, of course, when they see each other, they can be civil and be kind to one another. But that relationship is done, over with.
Yeah. And I don't care if they talk or if they have a relationship. Like, I don't want anyone to think that me saying I don't like this is because I feel
of course
insecure in Nathan and Elizabeth's relationship. That is not why I dislike the scene. I mostly dislike the scene just because it's like, okay, come on. Or it could have been better with Lucas and Nathan, I think.
Yeah. That's exactly the way I feel too. That last scene with Lucas, Lee, Rosemary, Bill, and Henry. And Bill and Henry now know about the idea for the national park. And I love when Bill mentions Maisie's name and Maisie just turns her head around real quick.
I was surprised Maisie didn't, like, walk over and be like,
I was too.
What are you saying?
Yes. And then Lucas has to turn things around from Capital City. So that means he has to go back, and he asks Lee to join him to get the park rolling. What did you think about this?
Believe it or not, I am actually, like, okay with the idea of Lee potentially going with Lucas to Capital City. I don't have a problem with that because I feel like Lee has not had a venture that's completely his own. Even this Mariel role, it's not completely his. Rosemary's still very involved. And that's not a bad thing, but I would love to see him really get in the nitty gritty a little bit, like he used to with Henry back in season 2 and 3.
Yes.
He and Henry butt heads all the time, and Rosemary was never involved in that. So I think I would actually like to see Lucas and Lee kind of going to Capital City together, because Lee is good with people. He's got the, he's very chill, very calm. Lucas is not great under pressure, but
No.
he is very smart and very savvy, which I think Lee can sometimes get taken advantage of sometimes because he's so giving and, open with people. So I think they would balance each other out, and they would also make a great team. In addition to Lucas and Henry, I think Lucas and Lee would make a great team.
Yes.
And I actually don't mind the idea of Lee going to Capital City for a little while. I wouldn't mind that at all, in fact.
Mind it either. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I know
we
some
know
people were worried that it would mean Lee and Rosemary would leave.
no.
Personally, I think it would be a very interesting storyline if Rosemary was in Hope Valley with the baby and Lee is off in Capital City, and kind of seeing Rosemary dealing with being separated from Lee for a little while.
Yeah.
I actually think that would be a genius storyline, because it's something we have not seen since they first got together. They've been attached at the hip since then. So I think it would be very interesting to kind of see Rosemary maybe feel some of the things that Elizabeth felt during season 5 when Jack was in the Northern Territories, or season 4, should I say. It's something Rosemary hasn't felt. She's only felt it in small doses of like, oh, Lee got in an accident. Now I'm worried he's not going to come back to me or whatever. It's like small doses. But if we saw like a big separation and Rosemary having to take care of things in Hope Valley, meanwhile Lee's in Capital City, I think that would be a very interesting storyline for them.
I think it would too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that Kevin's not leaving the show. So
it's
all good. Yeah. It would be different and interesting. And I would like to see that too. Moving on to some of our other favorite Hope Valley residents. We have Mike and Lee at the Queen of Hearts. I loved the scene in Lee's pep talk to Mike.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that, Hickam's all like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then all of a sudden Lee's like, oh, you're feeling great. And then all of a sudden Hickam starts doubting everything.
Yes.
And I think in that moment, it was interesting because I do think that May and Mike are moving very fast for practical reasons, which, obviously is fine. But in that moment, I think he realized, oh, maybe we are moving really fast.
Yeah.
And when you think about the huge life change that is happening for Hickam and May in this episode, you think about it. They've been dating, they've kissed a couple times, they've said I love you, and then to suddenly be living together for the rest of their lives, like that is a huge change to happen in so short of a time. So I can understand why Hickam got a little jittery, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a big change.
Yes. He was worried that he was jinxing things.
Yeah.
Because they're breaking so many traditions, one being bachelor party, and then
that is one tradition I am glad they broke, because
yes,
we all know how those Hope Valley bachelor parties go. They never go well. So yeah.
And I don't think there will be one for Nathan either.
I would not be upset if there wasn't one.
I don't think so.
Unless it was a baseball game.
Yes.
I don't want to see it. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Because typically it's a poker game, and Nathan does not really play poker. So
no,
not happening. Can't. In fact, we haven't seen anybody play poker for like a whole season or two. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, there was some in season 10 when Agatha came.
Like at the very beginning, it was like Aunt Agatha and Lucas playing poker, but that was it. That was I think
that was the last time. Yeah.
Yeah. We need more poker games.
Yes.
But no bachelor parties. No more bachelor parties.
Even though I don't play poker.
Yeah. I like poker. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't play for money.
No, me either. Or I don't play at all, but I wouldn't play for
Yeah.
that either.
Yeah.
Hashtag no bachelor parties. I honestly.
Never again. Another thing that has been fixed this season, no more bachelor parties and no more wedding planning. Thank goodness they didn't do that either. Because
No.
wedding planning is fine for maybe an episode or two, but all season long is a big no.
Yeah. That's gonna be a no for Nathan and Elizabeth too. I can just feel it.
I hope so. I really hope they don't decide to pull out all the stops because I don't need that. And I don't think any Nathan fan out there
No.
needs to see extensive wedding planning.
No.
I just don't
And
think
we
we
will
do.
talk about that a little bit later when we get
Yeah,
to Nathan
sorry.
and
Yeah,
Elizabeth. It's okay.
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah. I loved the scene with Minnie, Faith, Lily, May, and Fiona. Minnie is, of course, making the wedding cake, and May is talking about her brother and how she and Mike just want to keep things simple. And then Faith mentions throwing a wedding shower, and Lily's like, why do you want Miss May to get all wet?
It's a valid question for a kid. Yeah. I'm glad once again that they didn't do a shower either because either in real life or watching on TV, I just don't like baby showers or bridal showers. They're just not my jam. So, yeah.
Although I did love the groom's lunch and the bridal luncheon with Jack and Elizabeth.
That was nice.
Yes.
Yes, that was.
Yes.
But notice they weren't showers or bachelor/bachelorette parties.
That's why I didn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
why they were good.
yes. Fiona surprises May and shows the dress to her. And I thought it was interesting that apparently it was overnight delivery. That's pretty fast for a wedding dress.
I just want to know where she got it delivered from.
Me too.
Yeah, because I can promise you that that was not a thing back in the time period.
No.
If it was from across the country or
Yeah.
across the world, you never know.
Yes. But I loved the reunion with Fiona, and I'm glad that she got to come back for this episode.
I honestly I liked seeing Fiona again, but it also made me sad because she hasn't been here the whole time. And obviously she fit right in again. But it's sad because I'm pretty sure she's not gonna be back again for next season either. Because as we know, Kayla Wallace has Landman that she's working on. So I just don't see her coming back next season, and that's obviously sad. But it was still great to see her again.
Yes, it was. Hopefully she'll be able to come back. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Minnie, Angela, Allie, Emily, and Opal, and then Minnie and Elizabeth. The girls, mostly Emily and Angela, are talking about Teachers College, and Angela brings up that Elizabeth told her about a school for the blind called the Schwartzman School in Hamilton, where students are taught how to teach other blind children. And I thought that was nice.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Little House. I haven't watched the show, but I've read the books. And in the books, Mary, the older sister, she goes off to a school for the blind.
On the show,
it's a very long way from home, and the family, the family sacrifices a lot for her to go to this school. And as you mentioned, it happens in the show as well. So it kind of reminded me of that. I think that might be a direction that they end up going with Angela and the Canfields.
Yeah. I think that was purposefully taken from Little House on the Prairie. Not necessarily copied, but...
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I
inspiration. They took inspiration.
Well, we know Wayne Calls the Heart. They take stuff from Little House. And Dr. Quinn and all kinds of Anna Green Gables. They take stuff from everything. It's a little bit of every show that we love. So
Adam and Mary taught at the school for the blind.
Right.
And of course, Michael Landon Jr. is the co-creator of the show, so he's
That is true, yeah.
got an inside connection to
Mm-hmm.
Little House because his dad
I think
was.
I saw a video with him the other day. He was at a Little House convention.
Yes,
So,
he was. Yeah,
mm-hmm. Yes.
recently. And just really briefly, I love when Minnie and Elizabeth go into the cafe and Jack kind of hangs out with the girls while he's waiting, and he walks up to him and he's like, "Are you guys drinking lemonade?"
That was cute. He's quite the ladies' man, I'll say that.
Yeah. And then I actually loved the scene with Minnie and Elizabeth talking
Mm-hmm.
about Angela and the Schwartzman school.
I think what Elizabeth doesn't like realize is that Hamilton is a far way away, even though she kind of goes back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
It's a long way away to be separated, especially if, like the Canfields, if you're not separated ever. So I think it was an eye-opening moment for her. And I think it's something she's possibly going to struggle with a little bit next season when Jack starts going to school.
Yeah.
Even though she's the teacher,
Yes.
he's going to have his own friends and have his own life outside of school. So I think she's going to feel a little bit more of that separation.
Yeah, I think so too. And Minnie, at the end of that scene, she says, "These are precious years." And Elizabeth follows up with, "I'm reminded of that every day."
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I haven't watched it yet, but I do remember hearing from a recent interview, I think it was with Lindsay. She said that there will be more graduating students next year, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that would be Angela and possibly Emily as well.
Yes. Yeah. That would be my guess as well. May, Faith, and Fiona. We hear that Fiona still loves Nashville. There's still so much more work to do, and she and her sister are campaigning to get the first woman from Tennessee elected to Congress. And I thought that was fun to hear.
Yeah, that's a big deal because back in the day that was unheard of, but it actually makes sense for Fiona to be doing this. Like it's not some random like throwaway storyline. It makes sense for her to find purpose doing this.
Yeah.
And to be doing it with her sister, because we know she has several.
Yes.
I think it does make a lot of sense.
And Fiona invites Faith to move there too. I was kind of sad to hear that, but
I think if Fiona had asked her probably at the beginning of the season,
before
Faith would have gone in a heartbeat. And that's because she was missing Fiona.
Yeah.
She didn't feel her purpose. She, Carson's gone. Nathan didn't work out. Fiona's off saving the world, and she's stuck in this little town. But like we mentioned before, Faith has found her purpose now, and that's why she's conflicted, but also ultimately chooses to stay in Hope Valley.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's because there is something that holds her there.
Yes, it's
and I think that and for characters like Fiona, there isn't really anything apart from her friends. There isn't anything holding her back in Hope Valley. Just like I feel like eventually, maybe next season, someone like Lucas will find something that keeps him in Hope Valley because everybody needs a reason to be there.
Yeah.
And I feel like now Faith has found her reason to be there.
Yes, she has. And May gets a letter from her brother, Beau. We find out in that next scene that his ship is leaving Cape Fullerton early and he can't make it for the wedding.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, it was. Also, I love when Fiona walks in during this conversation with Mike, Bill, and Lee. And he says, "Well, if it isn't my best woman," and Bill's reaction is like, "Best woman?" And Lee's just like, it's the 20s. What are you gonna
It's
do?
the 20s. Forget about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I will say it's very my mom was watching it and she's like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "It makes sense." I
Yes.
mean, Fiona is Hickam's closest
Yeah.
friend. Let's be real. So it makes sense. And they were never romantically
No.
involved. So it's not weird in that
Yeah.
way. And
Yes.
honestly, if there's a friendship that's really sweet and really genuine, it is Hickam and Fiona.
Yeah.
So I think it's sweet that he asked her and
Yeah. This was a brief moment, but I loved the talk that Joseph and Minnie had about Angela. And this is when Joseph says, it's our job to give them roots and wings. At least we can take comfort in knowing that our love made her strong.
yes. And honestly, yeah, they shielded her from a lot of things, but they also helped her through a lot of
Yes,
things,
they did.
mainly her blindness and everything with that. They brought her to Hope Valley, which was a very loving, very, you know, the play everyone embraced them as members of the community, and they did their best to raise her in a positive environment. So they did give her something to come
Yes,
back
they
to when
did.
she does
Yeah.
spread her wings. So
Yes.
they should take comfort in that for sure.
Yeah, agreed. May's meltdown. What did you think about this? I thought it was maybe a little bit over the top, but
To be honest, I actually thought it was hilarious.
it was funny, but it was a
I
little
thought it
over the
was
top.
funny. I know I should have been feeling like, "Oh, poor May." I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
I actually really liked the way Amanda played that,
Yes, she did play it
but
well.
I will say it felt so like almost too reminiscent of when Clara's wedding almost got canceled because of the rain.
Oh, yeah.
It's like literally the same room, sitting between two people trying to be comforted. You got Rosemary giving the pep talk. It's like it felt a little bit too like similar to me.
Yes,
I
I
would have
agree.
liked it to maybe happen in a different room or something like that, because it
Yeah.
felt so similar. But I did find it pretty humorous.
Yes. It was
Yeah.
funny and a little over the top, but I did feel bad for May.
I remember watching it and I turned to my mom, I think, or my sister. I said, "This is off to a bad start."
Oh
Like
my god.
maybe they did rush into this and maybe they should have waited just a little bit longer, but
Oh, yeah.
it is
Yeah.
what it is.
I thought this was a nice moment with the wedding look reveal and Mike's surprise with help from the town. That was really sweet.
Yes. That was sweet. I
Yeah.
appreciated that.
The engagement
I do
ring.
think yeah, I do think he didn't need to get a ring. And maybe
No.
that's just me.
Yeah.
I didn't think he needed a ring, and I feel like it would have been better if he just went to go get May's brother.
Yeah.
It felt like, "Oh, I'm going to go get a ring. Oh, I'm going to get May's brother in the meantime." It's like pick one. Pick
Yes.
one and run with that, I would
Yeah.
say.
I agree.
But yeah.
And the reunion with Bo was sweet.
Mhm.
Bo was able to come to Hope Valley because he talked his captain into releasing him from his contract.
Yes.
And then we have the wedding and reception. I loved Joseph's speech and the vows. And I love at the part of Joseph's speech before the vows when he says, of all of God's gifts, surely love is the most precious and enduring. We see the shot of Nathan taking Elizabeth's hand.
Mhm. So cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, May and Mike say their vows, exchange rings, and are pronounced husband and wife. And I thought that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah. Well, I guess I get a check mark because I've been calling the
Yes, you
Hickam and
did.
May
Yeah.
marriage all
Yeah.
season. So check
Yes.
mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is it just me, or was that background music the same at Jack and Elizabeth's wedding?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought so.
Yes. I feel like they use it for every wedding now. So, yeah.
Yes. We get to the reception, and Bo and Minnie have a brief talk, and he is giving a suggestion for the wedding topper. And the one that he has in his hand, it means double happiness. And I love how when he says that and he's showing her the wedding cake topper, you see in between the two of them, Nathan and Elizabeth.
Yep.
So we've got May and Mike, who are now happily married, and we have Nathan and Elizabeth, who are now
Yeah.
happily a couple.
That's true.
Yes.
Double happiness.
Yes. Then we see Mike and May cutting the wedding cake, and I thought that was a cute moment too.
I will say, I am really excited to see these 2 as newlyweds because I'm remembering how it was with Jesse and Clara, not in season 8, but in
No,
season 7
7.
when they were newlyweds and they kind of went through some struggles, but at the same time they were just so in love.
Yeah.
And I picture that kind of
Yeah, I do too.
situation for Hickam and May. I just think they're going to be so in love, just, you know, loving marriage. And I think
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really sweet to see them as newlyweds.
Yes.
So I'm excited for that.
I am too. Yeah. I think it'll be a great storyline for them. I just hope that we get more scenes with depth to them next season, because we didn't get a lot of that in 11.
Yeah. I just want really romantic scenes for them because I will say their best scene of the season was when May prepared dinner for Hickam.
Yeah, that was their best
And
scene.
that was their best scene of the season. And if we get more like that, I am all in.
Yeah, me
Please
too.
give it to me.
Yeah. Yes. Moving on to another happy couple, Nathan and Elizabeth, and then Allie and Jack. They had some wonderful scenes in this finale.
They did. Lots of kissing. I was surprised.
Okay. And we'll just talk about those, I'm sure, but yeah.
Definitely lots of kissing.
Yes.
They're making up for all those episodes that they weren't kissing.
Yes. That first scene, Rosemary finds out about the kiss and the relationship with Nathan. I love how she's like, he kissed you, and Elizabeth's like, shh. Her reaction is all of the Hearties.
Yes.
She is totally Team Nathan. And then
she definitely is, yes.
Nathan arrives and compliments Elizabeth. I thought that was sweet. He said, you look beautiful. And then he figures out that Rosemary knows.
He's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And Elizabeth's like, I can't keep anything from Rosemary. No one can. It's a gift. Mom's the word.
Oh my goodness.
And then that moment when Rosemary walks away and it's just the two of them was adorable. He was like, I couldn't resist.
That was cute.
I know the feeling.
Yes.
And of course, they want to keep their relationship under wraps until they tell the kids, which I get 100%.
After everything that, Nathan, Allie, and I would dare to say Jack as well, they've been through a lot of like roller coaster these last few years. So it makes sense for them to kind of like try and break it to the kids slowly because Jack, he saw Elizabeth dating Lucas. Lucas was his buddy. And for it to suddenly change, he probably wouldn't understand that. So I think it's good for them to kind of take it a little bit slow. I appreciate that they don't really want to kiss in front of the kids. I think that's not just like them knowing or not
Yes.
knowing. I think it makes sense at this point for them to
Yes.
kind of just keep that private because they're not married yet. They're
No.
still courting. So, until they're married, I feel like that is a good idea to kind of just keep it a little bit more their own thing.
Yeah. We get the cute scene at the stables. They're getting ready for the riding lesson and they kiss again. Which that was a really sweet kiss. I loved that one.
At that point, I was like, wow, are they just going to kiss every time they see each other?
I think they did kiss in every scene.
I'm pretty sure they did, yeah.
But it was adorable, and Nathan took the day off. He's like, maybe finally we could go on that picnic together. And that picnic for 2 turned into a picnic for 4 with Jack's interruption. And
Yes.
he's like, we're going on a picnic. We're going.
And Nathan's just like, yay. Oh my goodness.
That was adorable, though, his little happy dance.
Yes.
That was too
very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Highland is the perfect kid to play little Jack.
He is, yes. He definitely is.
Yes. I love both Nathan and Elizabeth's reaction.
Yeah. They're both just like, great.
Okay. I loved the writing lesson too, and the encouragement from both of them was really sweet. And Nathan says, he's a good kid. You're really good with him. And I love how Nathan asks Elizabeth if it's all right to spend more time with Jack.
Yes. I appreciate that because it's not like, unless you're like engaged or like married or whatever, it's not an assumed thing, I guess. It's you can't just assume. Like, we saw this happen with Mary and DeWitt Graves.
DeWitt,
who also, she had a son named Caleb. And Caleb was struggling a little bit with that relationship in the beginning. And DeWitt, he wanted to win over Caleb, but he had to do it in a very careful, strategic, but also, like, vulnerable way.
Yeah.
And, it's not just something that you can assume when you go into a relationship, especially with a single parent. And both of them are single parents. So it goes both ways. But you can't just assume, oh, I'll just be allowed to have a relationship with the kid.
Yeah.
Like, you have to work for it.
Yes.
So I appreciate that Nathan asked her that, because it shows that he does want to form that bond with Jack.
And I can't wait to see more of that in season 12.
Yes, me too. Yes.
And that storyline was one of my favorites from season 1 too, with DeWitt and Mary and Caleb.
They'll always be one of my favorite Winkle of the Heart couples.
Yes.
So good.
They went down the black hole.
Should have stayed.
Yes. Lindsay, can you please bring them back?
Would be so fun.
Yes. This was one of my favorite scenes, Nathan and Allie, when he tells her about his relationship with Elizabeth. And of course, Allie already knows. And
Allie's like, what are you talking about? I've known this for years.
Yeah. And my heart melted at the look on Nathan's face when he comes to that realization.
Yeah. Because I think until now, he's always just kind of like fantasized about it, or been like, oh yeah, maybe we could get together, maybe not. I'll just have to like push my feelings down and hope maybe one day it'll happen. And then for him to be able to say, yeah, we're a couple, is a big deal. And you can kind of see that realization wash over him. And it's just, you see how happy he is in that scene. He's just so happy, and it's really sweet.
I love when Allie says, it's really nice seeing how happy she makes you. Allie figures out that the picnic was just supposed to be the two of them, and offers to watch Jack, and Nathan says it's okay. what could be better than being with my favorite people in one place? That
Yeah.
line.
You can tell he's a man very much in love, just like,
Yes.
like cloud
Yes.
nine. It's very cute.
Yes. And this is not to cause any conflict or bash Lucas, because we both love Lucas and he is a good guy. But that line from Nathan, I think it's a good contrast to Lucas, in the sense that, way back in season 8, we had that date with him and Elizabeth, even though Jack was sick. And it's the complete opposite for Nathan. He took that interruption from Jack and he turned it into a way to spend time with both Allie and Jack. And of course, Elizabeth too. And I love that.
Yes. Yeah. And like Nicole said, we both love Lucas.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of difference, I think, in that Nathan is a single parent as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he understands that sometimes you're just going to have to make the romance happen, even though you have kids around. Like,
Yes.
you just have to work with it, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, Lucas is a single guy. He's never had a kid, and that's a new thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, and obviously Jeanette didn't have a kid either.
No.
So when he dated Jeanette, I'm sure it was lots of whining and dining, lots of romantic gestures, lots of maybe some of the things we saw with him and Elizabeth. So it has nothing to do with the fact that Lucas is like a bad person or anything, which is what Nicole just said. It's just a different situation because
priorities.
Nathan's a single dad. Lucas isn't. And they just they see it differently.
Yes.
They see it differently.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Another favorite scene, the Thornton Grant family picnic. And I love Allie's matchmaking when she's asking Jack if he wants to pick some blackberries.
Yeah, because she could see the way Nathan's like looking at Elizabeth as he's like pouring the coffee. She's okay. They want to be alone right now.
Yes. And the kiss after they said hi and Elizabeth scooting in closer, that was adorable.
That was really cute. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you can't argue that one is not cute. It's adorable. Yeah.
Yes. And we saw from the sneak peek of this scene before the episode aired that Elizabeth hears how happy Allie is for them. Nathan says, apparently I'm an open book. I think there's a lot that you don't show. And, they are kind of teasing and flirting with each other. And he says, I think there's a lot you hide behind those eyes. And she suggests they share secrets about themselves. Nathan mentions the wedding and want to be my date. And Elizabeth says she would love to, but she needs to tell Jack first. And I appreciated that.
Yeah. And I think that, obviously, you got to put Jack first. And, Nathan understands that. I think she probably could have said yes and just said, you know what, let me just check with Jack. But other than that, yes. And I think she could have said yes. She didn't need to say no. But, I think it was, the thought is what counts. So, I think the thought was sweet. And I think what's interesting is that being with Nathan really helps Elizabeth, I think, to focus on being a mother first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because we have seen a lot of scenes between Jack and Elizabeth. We've seen a lot. And more than we've seen in most of the recent seasons. So she's always like, she's now putting Jack first, which Nathan understands. He put Allie first. And we saw that when Allie was dealing with the situation with her dad. He had to tell her, I'm not going to be able to hang out right now
Yeah.
because I've got a lot of things going on. And I think seeing that, being with Nathan, both of them being single parents, it really helps both of them to embrace their parenthood. I mean, Nathan's been doing that for years, so it's just part of who he is. But I think Elizabeth is in turn embracing more of her parenthood as well.
Yeah.
Because she's with Nathan. Nathan, it's part of who he is. He just does it all the time.
Yeah.
Now she's starting to embrace that part of her as well, which I think is a good thing.
Yes, it is. He says, until you do, can we count as each other's secret? Nice try, Constable. You're not getting off that easy. And then they share another kiss. That kiss, the hand on her face.
Yes. I love when she called him Constable. I always love when she does that.
Yes. That was an adorable moment too. And the hand on the face is definitely Nathan's thing.
Yes. And yeah, I hope we get many more kisses like that.
Yes. The scene with Elizabeth and Jack I thought was adorable. Highland did the walk and talk perfectly.
He did, yeah. He's a good little actor. And I think it's sweet to see them sharing a scene. It's sweet to see her, like, he doesn't really understand the whole relationship concept, but I appreciated that he asked some questions about it. And it's cute that he shared his little input. And it's very cute. I love that he is just very he embraces everyone. He embraces Allie. He loves being with her. He embraces Nathan. He loves being with Nathan. He embraces Bill. He embraces Lucas. He embraces just everybody. And that's just, it's very much like his dad in that he sees the best in people. So that's very sweet.
The apple juice 2.0 scene. This favorite scene in the episode.
Yes, this was a great scene.
Yes.
I think I love the kisses. I love the happiness. But for me, when they get down to the nitty gritty and really feel those emotions, that's when they're at their best, I think. Yes. So for me, this was the best scene for that reason. Yeah,
of course, I love the kisses and the affection, but the deep conversations is what I love most. Yeah.
Yes. Also, the kiss in this scene was my favorite one. Yeah. You kind of have, like, she shuts the door, like, without even looking at it.
Can we talk about that kiss? Nathan comes in and he's like, is Jack asleep? Elizabeth says he had a very busy day. And I saw a comment on Suspenders on Buttons post today with that kiss. And this person said it was code for, I need to kiss you. Shut up and kiss me.
Yes. We all know they both wanted to kiss again. So, yeah.
I mean, the second she opened the door, you could see that they were just ready to. Yeah. And then also in that same comment from that person, she said that apple juice, I'd love some, was code for more kisses, please. Hurry up and shut the door. 1,000%, I agree.
Yes, for sure.
But yeah, that was my favorite kiss of the episode.
Me too.
Yeah. Even though I loved them all, but that one was.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yes. That was like borderline Hallmark After Dark.
Yeah, we were getting close there.
Which I don't mind within reason, of course. So I think we'll get more of it next season.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yes. And I just love, you mentioned it, but how she misses the door because she can't take her eyes off of it.
She's like trying to shut the door and like feeling around over here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they're not even like kissing at that point. They're just like looking into each other's eyes, and she's just like,
Oh, that was adorable.
Yeah.
And and then we get to the conversation. Elizabeth mentions her first secret, and that is when she was a little girl, Viola told her if she kissed a potato, she would find her heart's desire. And Nathan's reaction was priceless.
He's like, you kissed a
Kiss a
potato?
potato. That's more of an
Yeah.
embarrassing story.
Yeah. It's like I could tell plenty of those.
We find out Nathan's secret, and he says that when he was offered the inspector position in Union City, she was why he wanted to take it.
This was not a secret to us, the
No,
audience,
we already knew it. Yeah,
but I appreciated that
he told her.
he said it to her
Hmm.
because I think she needed to know just how much
Hmm.
this affected him, even
Yeah.
back then, like way
Yes.
back then. He was like, he had fallen hard at that point.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
she did need to know how long of a struggle this was for him.
Yes. I agree.
And I think that was a even better way to demonstrate that than maybe something else like, "Oh, I thought you were pretty the first time I saw
Yes.
you," or something
Yeah.
like that. Like, that was,
Yeah.
like, really good because it's years ago, like,
Yes.
years and years ago, and he still felt that much for her,
Hmm.
which is that's a testament to how
Yes.
much he loves her. So,
Yes.
I think she needed to hear that.
Yeah, I think so too. He says, things were complicated. I found myself falling for you, and it felt wrong because the reason I asked to be assigned here was to protect you after Jack died. I never wanted anyone to know this, but I dreaded the idea of a new Mountie coming here. I was convinced I would despise whoever it was just because they were alive and Jack wasn't. And then you found out that Jack took my place at the training mission. Nathan, you are not responsible. If I hadn't been so afraid of what I was feeling for you, if I hadn't stayed, if I hadn't gotten to know you, here we are. I'm almost crying thinking about it. Just
Yeah, it was a really good moment
yeah,
because I knew this scene was coming.
yeah,
I didn't know exactly what they were going to say, but I knew there was a very emotional scene in the
yeah.
finale, and this didn't disappoint.
No.
But even though it was things that we both kind of it was implied, we kind of knew it. We knew that Nathan wanted to leave because he was just like, I can't deal with this. I need to get away because I can't watch Elizabeth with Lucas. I just can't do it. Like, we knew that. And we also kind of knew that Elizabeth didn't really want to embrace a new Mountie in town. We also knew that. But to hear them say it to each other and to actually say what they felt about each other way back then, I think it adds this layer to Nathan and Elizabeth that is a really good foundation for next season. And what I mean by that is it does embrace their history. It's not just discounting the history or moving on from the history, it's embracing that history. It's embracing the fact that Elizabeth in the beginning, she didn't want to get to know Nathan. She was like, I don't want to know this guy. In fact, I think I'm probably going to hate this guy because he's not my husband. And then with Nathan, it was, I have to leave Hope Valley because I'm in love with this person and it's not going to work out. And the fact that they are together now, a couple years later, that is what I want to see explored. How did this happen? Like, how were they able to overcome all of this and kind of them unpacking all of those layers? They were unpacking a layer here, and I love that. And I want more of that in the next season. So, literally, if every episode has a scene like this where they unpack more and more layers, it's just going to be so great. I love that. So, my hope is that this is some kind of a little bit of a preview of what we're going to get next year because this was a great scene. It was great.
I might have said this in the past, but if I haven't, I'll mention it anyway again. I love how selfless Nathan is, especially in this sense that he came to Hope Valley to protect her and Jack and felt like he was dishonoring Jack's legacy by falling for her. And that just, I hope I'm making sense, but it's just
Yeah, for
so
sure.
sweet. Yeah.
I think that's very true. And I think that, like I said before, I love the history and the complexity of these two. And they basically laid it out in this scene what the situation is, what the odds were that they had to overcome to be here. And you can see on Nathan's face, he still feels guilty about Jack dying in his place. It's written all over his face in the scene. And I have a feeling it's something that is going to come up next season. We're probably going to talk about that a little bit more. But but I think it's something he's going to have to eventually work through himself, even if Elizabeth is past it. He's not. He's obviously not. And I think that's something that he's going to have to work through or be involved with or get some closure with at some point.
I love how Lindsay covered a lot of bases with this scene. She covered season 6 and, you know, him coming to town with Elizabeth's comment. She covered season 7 with the inspector position, and she covered Fort Clay.
Season 6, 7, and 8, which is I think that's fantastic. And like I said, it's all like, this is why I love this scene, and this is why I am always going to root for scenes like this for Nathan and Elizabeth, because this is what we love about them. And it's their history. It's complex. It's been years in the making. And when I say years in the making, I mean that there are a lot of layers that have been laid out that make this a complicated but also very very good, juicy story between the two of them. Like, the odds are against them, and for that reason, that's why they're a compelling couple, is because they somehow made it past all of that. And I would love to see them unpack this kind of stuff. Bring it on. Bring more on. I want to hear what everybody was thinking back in those seasons.
Me too. And the heartfelt, emotional I love yous and the hair touch, that was
really sweet. And one thing I will say about that last part of the scene, I'm actually glad they didn't kiss here.
I'm glad too.
Because, you know, I feel like it would have taken away from the moment. They just needed to sit with it for a minute, you know, instead of kind of just like, oh, we're here, let's kiss again. And no, they sat with it and they kind of like looked into each other's eyes and just were like, we're gonna sit with this because this is what happened. The past is still the past.
Those I love yous, I think, were one of my favorite parts of this scene.
Yes.
And just before we move on to that last scene and the cliffhanger, I have to bring this up. When Elizabeth says, Nathan, you were not responsible, I think there's a reason she said that. And I think it's tied into this cliffhanger.
Yes, I very much think so. I think the fact that it has to do with Jack, the fact that Fort Clay was brought up, the fact that who came to share the news but Hardgraves himself, it's gonna go back to Fort Clay. Like, that's happening. I've heard some theories out there that it's possible that Nathan might be leaving the town for a little bit to go like on some investigative work. I could see that potentially, just because I know that there are rumors out there that Kevin and Kayla are getting married earlier in the summer, so they might miss the first few weeks of the shoot. But that's just rumors. I could see potentially Nathan being out of town on an investigation having to do with Jack's death. But I'm not going to say that's exactly what's happening. I think Fort Clay, Jack's death, Hardgraves coming back, finding out new evidence from Jack's death is something that Nathan and Elizabeth are going to have to work through for sure.
Yes. But before we get more into that cliffhanger, that last scene, after the wedding, Lawrence and Molly noticed the PDA.
Yes, I was like, oh, there they are.
And I love seeing Nathan put his arm around Elizabeth. That was so sweet.
Yeah, that was sweet.
And they talk about the wedding and fate. May and Mike found their soulmates with a little help from their friends. Do you think they still would have found each other anyway? And Nathan says, fate is taking what life gives you and turning it into what you want. Or you could always kiss a potato. I already have my heart's desire. And I think it was very important that Elizabeth said that before we saw Hardgraves.
Yes, I agree. That is very true.
And I love how he's teasing her with the potato.
Yeah, he's like, no.
And, the look he gives her is really cute. And then they go in for a kiss that gets interrupted by Hardgraves.
Yeah.
How rude.
Of course. Oh my gosh. It's like, dude, you had to see that they were about to kiss. What is wrong with you? I think Hardgraves is just a very miserable person who doesn't have a love in his life.
Yeah.
He wouldn't understand.
No. And that ends the episode. So how about we just talk about that cliffhanger? And before we get too in depth with this cliffhanger, for anyone that has not read Lindsay's interview from after the finale, go read it because Jack is not coming back. She confirmed it.
Oh my gosh. The minute he said it, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Everybody's going to be like, Jack's coming back. Jack's alive. I'm like,
no.
Oh my gosh. Why? I cannot tell you how much my phone was blowing up that night, and specifically people saying, do you think Jack's coming back? Do you think Jack's coming back? I'm like, no, guys. It's not happening. I'm sorry.
Hardgraves said late husband.
Yeah, literally, it's in the sentence. Late husband. Hasn't happened all this time. It's not happening now. I'm sorry.
No.
It's just not. And I don't care that everybody's freaking out over Aaron and Dan's movie. They think that's evidence that he's coming back.
No.
It's not. It's not. I'm sorry. It's just not.
I love Dan and I love Jack, but both Lindsay and Brian confirmed he is not coming back.
Yes, it's not happening.
That ship has sailed.
Yes. And plus, would you really want him to come back after all these years? Like, what on earth would be the explanation? Like, why would he suddenly come back? And we can't just say amnesia, because then we're in complete soap opera territory. Like, no, there's no good way to write this. I'm sorry. There just isn't.
Going to bring him back. Another reason is because we've already seen multiple scenes at the grave. So no.
Yeah. So sorry, guys. It's just not happening. But anyway, I have a theory about what is going to happen, which is I think they're going to find evidence that Jack's death was not an accident. Yeah. And I think what'll happen is Nathan will have to help investigate that and prove that it was not an accident, and basically, in a way, kind of find closure for himself with that. Yeah. And, because it's one thing to, have an accident happen and, you would have died or he would have died and it was just a matter of chance. It's another if someone actually specifically set a trap for Jack and, tried to get Jack killed. That's a whole other thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, Hardgraves, I don't think would actively go out of his way to kill somebody, but I do think negligence is possible, as well as corruption. We all know that he's very corrupt. So
yeah, that's what I think too.
And he may even try to bully or blackmail Nathan into trying to prove that he's innocent, which of course Nathan's never going to go for. But I think he's just going to continue to be a real real thorn in Nathan's side.
Lindsay did say, I think in that same interview that I brought up, that this cliffhanger will only bring them closer together. So there's no need to worry.
Yes. Yeah. I think what might happen is it might put Nathan and potentially Elizabeth into kind of a dark place. Nathan, because he's feeling that guilt over Fort Clay, and maybe Elizabeth because she's, feeling that sadness or even anger that Jack was killed versus, died in an accident. So I think they're both going to be feeling a lot of emotions. If the storyline is handled in the way that we think it's going to be handled, I think there's going to be a lot of emotions that do bring them together. Much like Doug's death in a way. Although Doug's death kind of pulled Elizabeth and Jack apart more than it brought them together, but I think those are the kind of emotions that this storyline could invoke for both of them, I would say.
I don't think it'll cause necessarily conflict between them. I think it'll be conflict with themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they're both gonna, very much like the scene we saw between them with the apple juice in this episode. I think it's gonna be very much they have their own trauma that they're gonna be dealing with, but they're gonna be sharing that with each other versus my trauma is making me shut you out and your trauma is making me lash out at you and then we're just gonna fall apart. It's like I think it's actually gonna bring them together because they're both gonna be going through their own trauma from this situation.
But they will work through it. I mean, they've been through so much already. They will get through it.
If anything, I'm excited for this because y'all know me. I will take the emotional, like, challenging stuff any day. Like, I know a lot of people like when they're happy and everything's fine and they're kissing and life is good. Like, I know a lot of people like that. For me, give me the emotional stuff. Like, I'll take that. Thank you very much.
I like both. But the deep emotional stuff, of course, I love more.
So let's talk about highs and lows. I would say there were 2 highs for me. Faith and Lily.
Yes, that's a high for me.
That was something I totally did not see coming, and then once it was happening, I just loved it. So more Faith and Lily in the future because they were a high of this season. I would also say Nathan and Elizabeth's first kiss scene was amazing, really good. And then all of episode 6 was fantastic.
Yes.
That was a very high. I haven't felt that in love with an episode for a very long time. So that was definitely a high for me.
For me, the highs were Faith and Lily, like you said, episode 6, especially, Nathan being all protective and helping Elizabeth through the Higgins situation. And then the declaration of love and first kiss, as well as the apple juice 2.0 scene. But I loved a lot of other moments as well. But those are just some of the ones that top the list.
Yes. And then for the lows, I would say, hate to say it, but I did not like the resort storyline. I didn't like it. The only part of that storyline that I liked was when Jeanette was involved. Other than that, I just did not like it. It was boring. It felt like a detour to a better plan. And to be honest, it didn't really give me satisfaction in Lucas's character development the way it should have. Like, I thought it was going to help him to grow and to really, it show his more mysterious side that we saw in season 6, and that didn't really happen. So I didn't love the resort storyline. Not my favorite. I'm glad we're on the right track now, but it felt like we could have been on the right track a long time ago, and unfortunately, it just took all season to get there. So not my favorite, unfortunately.
Yeah, that I think was my biggest low as well. But I think there were more highs than lows. This was a fantastic season.
And it makes me even more excited for season 12. So,
yes. Yes, so why don't we just talk about some of our hopes for season 12?
So, harping off of what I said a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
I am really hoping we get to see some of those more emotional storylines, but especially for Elizabeth and Nathan. And when I say emotional, I mean between both of them. I don't exactly mean like outside forces. I want them to be dealing with emotions because that is what they are best at. That's what that's why I fell in love with them as a couple. And we didn't get a whole lot of that in season 11, so I'm hoping we get a lot of that in season 12 because that's what I signed up for. More Lily and Faith. I would like to see maybe a medical emergency where Faith has to save Lily somehow. I think that would be an interesting situation for Faith to have to face. We haven't really seen Faith deal with any major medical situations
since Cody.
And she wasn't even the head doctor at that point. No, Carson was. I would love to see her actually deal with something that was just her as the doctor, you know, dealing with a very difficult situation.
Yes.
And then for Lucas, I would love to see him find love. I did feel the chemistry between he and Jeanette. And even though I know he's not going to end up with her because I don't even want that for him. But something like that spark that they had when he talked her down, like that was a good moment. And I want something like that spark for him.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's where he's in his sweet spot. I think that's a good sweet spot for him.
Yeah. For me, for Nathan and Elizabeth, more deep, emotional, vulnerable scenes between them. Also, Nathan proposing to Elizabeth, maybe with his grandmother's ring or, you know, a family heirloom. And then no wedding planning, but I would love to see a wedding with Nathan and Elizabeth. And the blended family with Allie and Jack and of course, more romance between them, which I'm sure that we will get. For
also more Mountie action too.
More Mountie action too, yes.
We had about one scene of Mountie action in season 11. We need more Mountie action.
And more scenes with Elizabeth in the classroom with her students.
Yes, I agree.
We didn't get enough of that this season. And it would be great to see more.
Yes. Also for Nathan and Elizabeth, just want to say this real quick. More locations for their scenes.
Yeah.
Because sure, I love the front porch. It's great.
Yeah.
But we can't have every single scene there.
No.
Let's move around Hope Valley. We got a big space here. Let's use it. So I want to see some beautiful, scenic, gorgeous romantic scenes for them. Jack and Elizabeth had so many. Even Lucas and Elizabeth had a lot. I think Nathan and Elizabeth need to have some of those kind of scenes. Like I want that for them.
Yeah.
I get that the porch is cute and it goes with the single parent thing, but let's move away from the porch for a little bit. Let's explore the world.
Yeah. I think we will. And for Faith and Lily, a lot of what you said, you know, a medical emergency for Faith, maybe involving Lily. Maybe at some point, romance or love story with Faith. Fingers crossed for Tom coming back. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
For the Coulters, more family scenes because we did not get enough with Goldie this season. And more of them working together, of course, at the office. For Bill, I think it would be great to see a romance for Bill.
I think that would be fun. You know what I would really like to see for Bill? I would love to see him really get back to his roots as both, you know, a charming guy who's in a romantic relationship, but also his investigative skills. I know we saw little glimpses here and there of that this season, but I'd like to see him do it by himself or possibly maybe with someone else. I think, you know, he and Rosemary were fun together, but I
Mhm.
do think Rosemary has priorities that she needs to focus on more.
Yeah.
And I think it would be fun to see Bill possibly
Mhm.
coupled with somebody who he could investigate with. I
Yes.
think that would be fun.
Yes.
Hashtag AJ Foster, bring her back.
That would be fun to see AJ again.
That would be fun. She
Yeah.
was the best for him, in my opinion.
Yes,
So
I agree.
yeah.
More Flomo. I got to put that out there. More Florence and Molly.
Yes.
Friends
There were
scenes.
not enough of them this season. We needed more.
Yes. More Henry and Lucas working together. And
absolutely.
You know, just a great story for Lucas as governor next season would be great to see. And a love story for him as well.
Yes, I agree. I want to see Lucas succeed as governor. I don't mind when he hits the dark spots, but I really want to just see him succeed and actually, you know, he found this as like his calling. You want to see him do well. You don't want to see him fail at it because this is what he felt fulfilled doing. So you want to see him find that fulfillment.
Yes.
And I would love to see that for him because I didn't feel it this season. I felt like he was just so bogged down by the details that he really didn't get to do much good for the whole community. So I would love to see more of him using his skill successfully.
Yes. And for Mike and May, more romantic scenes with them, as well as some maybe deep conversations as well, because we didn't get a lot of that in season 11.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love for that for them.
Yes.
Also, lots of newlywed married couple scenes, which I think would be really cute for them.
Yeah. For the Canfields, I'd say more family moments between all four of them. More romantic scenes with Joseph and Minnie. And I actually would love to see Jacob back.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I want to see them make use of Joseph as the pastor.
Yes. That is
I want to see, because we haven't seen it. Like, since he first got to town and they basically told him, you're going to be the pastor. And he's like, no, I'm not. And then as soon as he became the pastor, it was like he wasn't anymore. And I really want to see them embrace the pastor side. I want to see him giving people advice on therapy swing or at his home, or I just want to see the people of Hope Valley coming to him with their problems.
Yes, me too. Yeah, we definitely need more scenes with him as a pastor, you know, giving sermons or just giving advice to the people in Hope Valley. And last thing I'll say, more porch swing conversations.
Yes, for sure. Yes. I have one last thing too.
Yeah.
Fewer repetitive scenes.
Yes, please.
Less repeated information. Yes. We Hearties are smart. They can pick up from one scene.
Yeah.
They don't need explanation over 3 or 4 scenes.
Yes.
We can generally pick up things in one scene. So
yeah.
I would appreciate maybe some less repeated information in season 12. Yeah.
Yes, same. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. This was a fantastic season, and I had so much fun covering it with you, Theresa.
Oh, thanks. I had a blast too.
Yes. And hopefully you'll be able to join me again next season.
We shall see.
Yes. Yeah. But Hearties, I think that concludes our review of When Calls the Heart, Season 11, Episode 12, Anything for Love. If you enjoyed this episode, you can like this video and share your thoughts and any hopes and predictions you have for Season 12 and that cliffhanger in the comments. If you want to stay up to date on all of my upcoming episodes, you can subscribe to this channel and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. Thank you so much for listening and following along all season. We appreciate all of your support, and I will see you next season, and hopefully Theresa will too. We love y'all, and have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next time. We love y'all. Bye!
Bye.